Tonight, Donald Trump turns his public attention back to Canada and tariffs and U.S. statehood.
Because if they didn't have us, and if we didn't spend that money, it would cease to exist.
Deciphering his comments for possible impacts. Pierre Poilievre takes aim at Canada's public spaces. The tents would come down, the housing would go up.
Encampments now fill spaces where children once played and families once gathered.
The details being questioned. How costly, how likely, how legal? Plus, our poll analysts share what they're seeing and watching for. Tick, tick, it's getting down to the wire. Canada votes in 5 days.
From CBC News, this is The National with Chief Correspondent Adrienne Arsenault.
Thank you for joining us. During most of this federal election campaign, Donald Trump has been relatively quiet about Canada. The drama of tariffs, the threats of annexation, almost absent until tonight. He mused that tariffs on Canada's auto sector might go up, that the goal was to effectively end car manufacturing in this country, that without the money earned from trade with the U.S., Canada would cease to exist. That's right, more rhetoric about becoming the 51st state. Now, Trump did say he loved the Canadian people, but as Katie Simpson shows us, his apparent grievances about the country itself haven't gone anywhere.
Hello, everybody.
U.S. President Donald Trump had largely toned down his attacks on Canada for much of the Canadian election until now, as he delivered a new tariff threat.
I really don't want cars from Canada. So when I put tariffs on Canada, they're paying 25%, but that could go up in terms of cars.
There is already a 25% tariff on all foreign-made autos, but CUSMA-compliant goods are exempt for now. There's also border security tariffs of 25% on all goods, with a lower 10% on energy and potash. Again, CUSMA-compliant goods are also exempt. And there's the global 25% tariffs on steel and aluminum.
We don't really want Canada to make cars for us, to put it bluntly. We want to make our own cars.
During an Oval Office event, Trump revisited some of his favorite complaints about Canada, including his exaggerated claims about the size of the trade deficit and support the U.S. provides to its ally.
I mean, why are we doing that? And I have to be honest, as a state, it works great. As a nation, considering the fact that most of the nation, 95% of Canada, what they do is they buy from us and they sell to us. If they didn't have us, and if we didn't spend that money, as Trudeau told me, they would cease to exist.
On Canada, if I may.
This is in line with what the White House press secretary told CBC News during a news conference last week.
He believes that Canadians would benefit greatly from becoming the 51st state.
While Trump's message on Canada remains the same, he's made plenty of confusing statements about his global trade war. Journalists urgently seeking clarity at every opportunity as he pushes ahead with his ever-evolving plan.
We're no longer going to be the country that's ripped off by every country in the world.
At this point, there's no official word from the White House about a formal change to the tariff policy on Canada. So right now, it is status quo. This remains yet another threat from President Trump.
And Katie, I was just thinking, it's been a bit of a while since Trump has singled out Canada like this.
Yeah, and it certainly wasn't as harsh as we've heard him in the past. He did mention former Prime Minister Trudeau, saying he affectionately called him governor. And he said he'd had positive conversation with the new Prime Minister, Mark Carney. But again, this moment serves as a reminder of Trump's ultimate goal. He's trying to grow jobs in the U.S., even at the expense of a longtime ally.
All right, Katie Simpson in Washington. As the federal election campaign enters its final days, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre took aim at tent encampments, saying he'd give police the power to dismantle them and arrest the occupants. Evan Dyer has the reaction.
It's like something out of the Great Depression.
The Conservative leader today proposed changes to the criminal code that would make it an offense to set up a tent in a public space and would give police the power to dismantle encampments.
Encampments now fill spaces where children once played and families once gathered. Our public spaces have become breeding grounds for addiction, violence, human trafficking, and crime.
Since the pandemic, cities large and small around Canada have reported a growth in the number and size of homeless encampments. Even where shelters exist, they typically don't allow people to stay indefinitely. One reason Sarah says she's camping out in Hull, Quebec.
We're allowed 30 days in, 7 days out. So I do my 30 days in during the 7 days out while I camp in my tent. And I freeze my ass.
Even in the middle of the winter on the coldest days?
Yep. Don't have a choice, right?
Poilievre said he would pursue a housing-first strategy.
We will give people that are currently trapped in these awful circumstances a pathway to a better life.
But on that part of the plan, he presented few details, and the other parties panned his approach.
He wants to charge people that are homeless. He wants to criminalize people that got nowhere else to live. Tracks for conservatives. We want to give people homes.
It's a typical American-style approach to an issue, which Pierre Poilievre has imported, which is, there's a problem, I will arrest people. I will criminalize it, as opposed to address the underlying challenges that are there.
The jails would be overcrowded.
Sarah says she's 8 months pregnant, and the threat of arrest won't make her move.
Leave where? Exactly. To leave where? Where do you want me to go?
Any new law on homeless encampments might face a charter challenge. The Supreme Court has already ruled that demolishing a camp when shelters don't have room to house the people in it violates the charter right to life, liberty, and security of the person. Evan Dyer, CBC News, Ottawa.
The Liberals and Bloc Québécois are also looking to shore up support in these final days of the election. CBC News is traveling with the campaigns. So first, we take you to BC.
I'm Ashley Burke covering the Liberal campaign. Leader Mark Carney is back in BC targeting a handful of NDP and Conservative ridings that his party wants to turn red. Carney called on voters of all political stripes to vote for him, regardless of who they've supported in the past, and exclusively took aim at his main rival, Pierre Poilievre. Carney was asked about barely mentioning the NDP this campaign, and he joked that today could be the first time. The Liberal leader says this election comes down to one issue: who is best to take on Donald Trump? And he says there are only two choices, Poilievre or him.
I'm Rafi Boudjikanian in Sainte-Thérèse on Montreal's North Shore, where Bloc Québécois leader Yves-François Blanchet is greeting potential voters. He could lose up to 10 seats, including this riding. Blanchet also visited 2 others that are Bloc territory earlier today, and he spent most of this week playing defense. Still, Blanchet has come back from behind in both of the last 2 federal elections, and he insists Quebecers could still give his party a gift come Monday. But the clock is ticking as he tries to figure out how to pull off a hat trick.
The NDP is fighting to hold on to its seats in a campaign filled with challenges. Marina von Stackelberg shows us the change in messaging intended to turn things around.
Are we ready to keep on knocking doors?
Jagmeet Singh has renewed energy in what is now a battle for the NDP's future.
We got 5 days left. I didn't hear any bell. Did you guys hear a bell? This fight's not over. We're here fighting every single day.
Polls suggest the New Democrats could lose many of their 24 seats. They may even fall below official party status in the House of Commons. So Singh is on the defensive. He's visiting ridings the NDP already has, even parts of BC that should be strongholds. And he's changed his message.
Whether Mark Carney gets a supermajority or whether there are enough New Democrats in Parliament to hold the line.
But in much of Western Canada, the fight is between orange and blue. Some NDP incumbents won their ridings last election by a small margin.
The only way to beat the Conservatives is to vote NDP, and that's coming up over and over again. We've got a really good chance at this if we get enough people out to the polls.
We have a record number of volunteers. We have never had more resources than we've ever had in Edmonton-Griesbach.
But supporters say they're worried voters won't choose the NDP.
People are so scared that, they don't, if they don't want the Conservatives to get in, they think that the only option is to vote Liberal.
I know a lot of left-wing voters that are very disenfranchised with the NDP.
The New Democrats have struggled to be part of the tariff conversation, and this expert says the party has baggage.
The whole situation with the NDP, the decline of the party, has been in motion for some time now. I think that ever since they decided to sign on to this agreement of confidence and supply with the Liberals, they've had a really hard time differentiating themselves.
Singh is now in Winnipeg, fighting to save another seat. The riding of Elmwood-Transcona, a working-class suburban area, has almost always voted NDP. But in a by-election last year, the New Democrats only held on to it by a slim margin. Marina von Stackelberg, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Just ahead, we will ask two leading poll analysts what they're seeing in latest numbers and which battlegrounds could swing results. And a reminder, CBC has you covered on election night. You can join us for minute-by-minute updates Monday as polls close across the country. Our Canada Votes coverage begins at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, 3:30 Pacific, wherever you watch CBC News. And Hudson's Bay says it's moving toward closing the 6 locations it was attempting to save. A new court filing confirms those stores, which are in Ontario and Quebec, will begin liquidation sales this Friday. The decision comes after a failed attempt to find an investor and restructure. Now, all 96 locations are set to close by June 15th. But the company says it will reverse course if a buyer surfaces. And the Crown has delivered its opening argument in the sex assault trial of 5 former World Junior hockey players. Katie Nicholson now on the allegations being made and the evidence that could be presented in the days ahead.
A long walk to the courthouse, an even longer 7-year journey to this day. As the Crown outlined its case against 5 former World Junior stars accused of sexual assault, Michael McLeod, Dylan Dubé, Cal Foote, Alex Formanton, and Carter Hart all have pleaded not guilty. It was June 2018. The players left a hockey gala for a bar where McLeod met a woman whose name is protected by a publication ban. McLeod took her to his hotel, room 209, and they had sex. Then, the Crown said, the atmosphere changed. The Crown says he then texted teammates, "Who wants to be in a 3-way quick, 209, Mikey?" The Crown laid out graphic and specific sexual assault allegations against each player. Only McLeod faces a second charge, being party to the offense. The Crown says it has evidence he assisted and encouraged his teammates to engage sexually with the woman, knowing she had not consented. Consent, what it is and what it's not, the main thrust of the Crown's opening statement. This longtime criminal defense lawyer says that can be tricky to prove.
So the issue is, was there specific consent for each and every one of these men to participate one way or another with the complainant?
The Crown says its evidence will include videos from that night and messages between the players in the aftermath, making sure their accounts matched up.
Much of the case will hang on the testimony of the then 20-year-old woman at the heart of this case, but she won't be the only key witness. The Crown says it intends to call other teammates who were in room 209 that night to testify.
And Katie, as I understand it, that there was an unexpected delay immediately after today's lunch break.
Yes, we were expecting a London police detective to continue testimony, and something happened. I'm not allowed to tell you the details of what happened, but it required the judge to speak with the lawyers without the jury present. The jury was sent home, and I can tell you that the jury is expected back here again tomorrow.
Okay, interesting. Katie Nicholson in London, Ontario. Thank you. Police in Hamilton, Ontario, have tracked down 2 cars that were involved in the deadly shooting of an innocent bystander. The victim, an international student who was simply waiting to cross the street. Ithil Musa on how her family is trying to come to grips with an immeasurable loss.
A prayer for a life taken too soon. Harsimrat Randhawa arrived in Canada just 2 years ago to study at Mohawk College in Hamilton, Ontario.
I picked her up from the airport. I remember she was a child. She still looks like a child to me.
Her uncle says she left India all alone in hopes of a better life.
And now we're preparing to send her back as a luggage back home in India.
Police say the 21-year-old was struck in the chest by a stray bullet last Thursday after getting off a bus.
Harsimrat had zero capability of avoiding what was about to unfold in front of her, and everything unfolded so quickly she had no time at all to react.
Still in shock, those in Randhawa's occupational therapy program say she was quiet by nature, but her warmth still shone through.
She was so kind and caring, and I think she would have done really, really well in this field.
A very kind soul. It's very, very overwhelming.
Police say they've recovered 2 vehicles during 2 separate searches, one believed to be the target, the other the source of the gunshots.
Investigators have been narrowing down the pool of people who are associated to these 2 vehicles. We will leave no stone unturned until we find you.
Hamilton saw a record-breaking 60 shootings in 2024 compared to just 35 the year before.
I wish we weren't here today.
The city's mayor says enough is enough.
These guns have to go. We cannot have this kind of violence in our city and in our community.
Randhawa's uncle agrees.
That's happening on our streets every day, on a weekly basis. It's not acceptable.
Police say they've spoken to witnesses and they're reviewing surveillance footage, while Randhawa's family prepared to send her body back to her parents in India. Idil Musa, CBC News, Hamilton, Ontario.
India has closed the main border crossing and suspended a critical water-sharing treaty with Pakistan after gunmen killed 26 people.
Perpetrators of this attack will be brought to justice and their sponsors held to account.
India's foreign secretary mentioned unspecified cross-border linkages after unidentified gunmen opened fire at a popular tourist destination in India-controlled Kashmir, the deadliest attack on Indian civilians in more than a decade. Pakistan has denied responsibility. And the Istanbul area was rocked by a magnitude 6.2 earthquake, alarming residents. Clearly, hospitals treated people for falls and injuries as they rushed, and in at least one case, leapt from buildings. Fears have run high since an earthquake struck southern Turkey in 2023, killing tens of thousands. And thousands of mourners are in Rome tonight to pay final respects to Pope Francis. Coming up, the view from the Vatican ahead of Saturday's funeral. Plus, the art of campaign messaging.
From their clothes to how they do their hair to their movements.
We break down what the party leaders are projecting through everything from fashion to posture. And the Canadian ringing in his 90th birthday with his first ever album. We're back in 2. Dramatic video from central New Jersey shows a raging wildfire that has triggered a state of emergency. It has already scorched nearly 5,000 hectares and is just 30% contained. Officials say it could become the state's largest wildfire in about 20 years. More than 1,000 homes have been evacuated. And a new report says a record 84% of the world's coral reefs are suffering from, quote, the most intense global bleaching event ever. And that's important because when corals lose their color, they also lose their source of food, potentially leading to their death. Scientists say the phenomenon is the result of rising water temperatures, but they add the corals aren't all dead yet and could still bounce back. In Rome, mourners from around the world have gathered to say goodbye to Pope Francis, now lying in state for 3 days. Chris Brown shows us the solemn ceremonies and the humble legacy he wished to leave behind.
As befitting a man who preferred simplicity over formality, the procession that left the papal residence for St. Peter's Basilica was colorful but pared down. With the procession of cardinals in red in the lead, 14 pallbearers carried Francis's wooden coffin across the square, as many in the crowd applauded. Inside, past the bronze doors, his body was placed by the main altar for a short ceremony, after which the many waiting outside were allowed to file in.
Francis's body will lie in state in St. Peter's until Friday evening, allowing thousands of people to have individual moments as they file past his coffin.
By afternoon, the wait to get in stretched up to 7 hours, But native Montrealer Bill Doig got in early and said it was worthwhile.
It was well worth the experience. A lot of people going in to show love and respect for the late pontiff.
We wanted to just come and say goodbye to this Pope. We loved him very much, so we're very, very moved.
We're very glad that we see him, and this is the miracle for us.
This Vatican correspondent says Francis was very involved in planning how this day would unfold.
I think the simplicity of how Francis wanted to be buried, the fact that he didn't want to go the traditional route where popes are buried in 3 different coffins. He chose one simple wooden one inscribed with his name. It says a lot to his character.
Even those who didn't get into St. Peter's said it felt like they were witnessing history, including this Canadian couple from Wasaga Beach, Ontario.
To be part of that moment of, one chapter of this Pope has ended, but, the hope of a new Pope stepping in. There is some optimism there and, maybe what the new Pope will stand for. And, the world is changing, it's evolving.
Francis's funeral will be on Saturday, followed by the conclave to choose his successor, which may still be 2 weeks away. Chris Brown, CBC News, Rome.
CBC News will have full coverage of the Pope's funeral on Saturday, hosted by Heather Hiscox at the Vatican. You can catch that anywhere you watch CBC News starting at 3 a.m. Eastern. Well, a shortage of family doctors is pushing more Canadians to pay for private care.
These clinics are charging between $3,000 and $8,000 a year.
Coming up, what some experts are calling for to protect the public system. Plus, the view from Canadian voters on what matters to them as Election Day approaches.
We need to take a long, hard, serious look at the quality of life for seniors.
The National breaks down the stories shaping our world. Next.
We got a team!
Way to go. That was a local girls hockey club confirming Vancouver will become the first expansion team and 7th franchise in the PWHL, joining the league next season. For now, the club will be known as PWHL Vancouver. The league says it's currently working on developing a logo and a name. A big issue for voters in this election, soaring costs. Typically, things like rent and food top the list, but it's also health care. Christine Birak is tracking the rise of private clinics now charging Canadians tens of millions of dollars out of pocket for medically necessary services.
Most patients at this Montreal area clinic don't have a family doctor. Their first appointment costs at least $350. After that,
every 15 minutes I can pay $150. That was like a bit of a sticker shock. I was like, wow.
Anissa Carrascal found out her family doctor of 10 years left to work in a for-profit clinic, offering same-day office visits, house calls, and access to MRIs.
This is the healthcare that we all deserve.
The fee, $4,245 a year.
I already paid through the services through my taxes, right? So why should I pay a private company?
The latest federal data shows in a year, Canadians paid over $62 million out of pocket for medically necessary services they should have received at no cost. Some doctors say companies are using loopholes while provinces look away.
These clinics are charging between $3,000 and $8,000 a year.
Dr. Rita McCracken is a family doctor in BC. She got a job offer from a private clinic, estimating she could drop 800 patients, make more money, and pay no overhead. She said no.
What it does is it takes a family doctor like me and removes me and puts me behind a paywall.
I worked in the public system for 20 years.
Dr. Martin Potter now owns a private clinic in Quebec. Unlike most provinces, Quebec allows doctors to bill both the public system and through private clinics. As more doctors go private, more patients are losing access. Now, Quebec plans to force new doctors to work in the public system, noting their training costs taxpayers $400,000 to $800,000.
Instead of fixing the reason why people have left the public system, they're just basically preventing an option for these doctors.
Experts say the federal government can push for change by pulling millions in funding from provinces if they don't improve healthcare for everyone, not just those who can afford it. Christine Burak, CBC News, Toronto.
Now it's time to break down the stories shaping our world. Tonight, the choice facing Canadians examined from multiple angles. What opinion polls are really telling us days from the final vote?
If those ridings are turning blue in election night, then maybe Pierre Poilievre has a chance to win this.
Canadians are glued to this election. We asked 3 of them about their motivations.
Like the Canadian dream is what's at stake right now.
But first, the secret art of persuasion.
Candidates and campaigns are kind of like brands.
How strategists craft the image of their leader and how it can go so wrong. In this final lap of the race, voters like you are paying close attention in huge numbers, so these subtle techniques may be more influential than ever. Ali Chiasson breaks down how they work.
Do you know that a lot of campaign messaging is subliminal? Before a candidate even says anything, they're telling you a story with what they wear, how they're standing, the pictures they post on social media.
Every granular detail is planned out well in advance. It wouldn't be out of this realm to have, some of the candidates possibly even focus grouping their ties.
Think of it like an aesthetic political war room.
Everything from their clothes to how they do their hair to their movements and posture.
Let's decode what the current frontrunners are trying to tell us, starting with slogans.
Look to the example of Canada Strong versus Canada First. We just have one little word change there, strong and first. If we look to the Liberals, we've got the word strong. What does the word strong signal or communicate? Resistance, force, resistance to pressure, something like first, which is a little bit more competitive. It's something or someone being put ahead of another. Each campaign is signaling a different response to the pressures from the South.
And you can even see that in their logos.
If we look to the Conservative Party, we see a very strong, very centered maple leaf encompassed by the sea, and it's coming up over a horizon line. So we've got this like dawning of a new day. We've got this rising up. With the Liberal Party, we have a maple leaf that's much more active. It's in motion. It's complementary to the static nature of the Liberal word mark. I could see them looking to communicate agility or flexibility.
Candidates and campaigns are kind of like brands.
With their political brand decided, candidates just have to stick to the theme. Be cool. Political PR strategist Patricia Fave has some pointers on that.
The Gilles Duceppe hairnet debacle has haunted every campaign team ever since.
They put their leader in a hairnet to tour a cheese factory, and it provided the strongest image of the campaign. Quebec cartoonist had a field day, a political disaster.
Do visit the dairy facility. Don't visit the parts that require you to wear a hairnet.
Campaigning in 2025, do put on a hard hat. Another do, aprons.
There isn't enough time to recover from a bad viral moment.
Take it from the social media lead / meme lord behind Jagmeet Singh's 2019 campaign.
So you can't force anything. You want your candidate to lean into social trends, you have to find the right ones.
Yep. Nope.
This made sense back then, but in this 2025 federal election campaign, they are all playing it safe. Jagmeet is still posting Get Ready With Me's, but that's pretty on brand for the NDP leader.
Vote for a new Democrat who's going to fight for you.
That works for his brand, where Mark Carney's social media team loves a podium, loves a suit.
Even in a hockey jersey.
Mike Myers, what are you doing here?
You can't miss the collar.
Liberals want to show that the adults are in the room. You're not going to see them do anything unsafe on social that, pisses everybody off. They're ready to serve. I think that's very clearly coming across in their content.
Pierre Poilievre's team paints a family portrait.
Common sense. Let's bring it home.
They're definitely trying to communicate a more human version of Pierre that maybe they haven't had the opportunity to define, up until the election, with the inclusion of his partner that I think they're doing a great job at.
But all of that brand building can really fly out the window when they're live.
I think you just have to trust that you know your material.
Comedian and improv coach Ken Hall saw the candidates using obvious body language techniques.
In acting, they call to put the focus on someone. A lot of the times, Mark Carney would just look very stoically forward and not really engage in a way to maybe diminish that moment.
But you can get too wrapped up in technique and talking points, leaving no room for play between scene partners, candidates.
Mr. Trump will be 90 years old, not president no more, and somebody of course, well, I'm going to ask myself a question.
I think they're going for beers afterwards, you know?
Now, was that laughter genuine or intentional? Just like the logos, looks, and feels that the campaigns conjured up. One thing's for sure, this election has given us a lot of material to consider before heading to the polls.
Now, numbers are helpful, but now let's hear from individual voters where they live. Nick Purdon visited 3 of them to ask about their hopes and fears.
I love our country. I always will vote. You gotta vote so you can have a say.
I really feel sorry for whoever becomes prime minister.
I feel like this election is bigger than probably any other election.
In a few days, Canadians will pick a new government. What are the reasons and the hopes that people have in this election? What else goes into the ballot box along with a person's vote? I visit a family farm in southern Alberta near the town of Blanchet. Leroy Newman has 4,000 acres here, and canola is his most important crop.
Do you almost feel like the future of Alberta is at stake in this election?
I'm worried about some of the people that think that we should separate from Canada. I'm a true believer in Canada. I'm very national. I'm proud of being Canadian, and I can't see our province going on its own. You're not going to be, I'm a Canadian Albertan, like, it just doesn't work. So the benefits of old cows were, it's string everywhere.
What's on Leroy's mind in this election is the future of his farm and keeping it in the family.
The farm, my great-grandfather started in 1904. I'm the 4th generation, and my son's soon to be the 5th. We've seen a lot of good times and a lot of bad times, and we always stuck through it and struggled along. This looks like she's falling apart.
Leroy's plan is for his son to soon take over the operation here.
It's a new concept.
Even as he worries that it's getting harder and harder to keep farms afloat.
For me in this election, I'm really worried about the future of medium-sized farms. You're not going to stay on the farm if you can't afford these tax rates that they're going to come implement, because you're going to need a lot of income to keep a farm going. And if taxes go up, we're in trouble.
What would you say to the next prime minister?
Listen to the people, because they have the answers for you. There's people there that'll help you, but don't think you're powerful. Just you're here to serve us.
What's the thing that you're going to be thinking about on your way to vote?
For me, election day means it'll be a lot of nervousness. I'm thinking we've got to know the next 4 years of our government and see which direction we chose to go down. I'm quite nervous because there's nothing worse than watching the Ontario polls close and we're done. But we always move on. Get up and get back to the farm. Put your head down and pay more taxes.
Across the country is Windsor, Ontario, the town with the busiest border crossing in Canada. Here, with Trump's trade war, tariffs are the issue. I visit Dainty Rice, Canada's only rice mill. Here they import rice from the US and they sell it back. So far, the tariffs haven't affected them too much, but still people here worry about the future.
Time-wise logo, what are you guys changing about it?
We want to make it bigger. It feels very like 70s. It doesn't feel like a modern brand. So
Rebecca Smith is the sales and marketing coordinator at Dainty. She says tariff stress is shared by everyone in her border town.
Well, I think people are scared. I think they're kind of freaked out. They don't know what's going to happen. They're trying to plan for things. I know, like, my mom works in automotive. My sister works for a tool and die shop that primarily serves automotive, and my dad works in steel. So everybody I know is directly impacted. Everybody's trying to figure it out. Like, if Trump actually goes through with what he's suggesting, that, you know, I could be the only one in my household with a paycheck coming in.
Rebecca tells me that uncertainty changed the meaning of this election.
We were voting a certain way, you know, a month ago, and then these Trump tariffs, the threat of annexation, completely pivoted, you know, I think everybody's priorities, united the country in a way, which is great, and, you know, how we're voting is now changed.
What would you say are the stakes in this election for you?
Like the Canadian dream is what's at stake right now.
What do you mean?
Your just ability to live a happy life and to like build a family, build your life, own a home.
With the stakes that high, it's no wonder some people say this is the most important election in a generation. My next stop is the town of Vernon in British Columbia's Okanagan Valley. More than a quarter of the population here is over the age of 65, and Carol Fawcett is one of them.
I'm sick of hearing stories of seniors who don't have enough money to live on. I don't. I mean, it's just annoying. I mean, I'm not starving, okay? I mean, it's not, I'm not. But I can't go out and buy meat. Who could afford that? I want to come in.
Yeah.
And I just think all this nonsense with Trump has really influenced and impacted our election horrifically.
Carol worked for decades in nonprofits. Now that she's retired, she's part of a group called Seniors Tin Cup. They raise awareness about seniors' issues.
It doesn't help when your own government doesn't even talk about seniors. So as far as I'm concerned, they're going to talk about it, they're going to hear about us, and we're going to do something about it.
You know, what would you say is at stake for seniors in this election?
The main thing that's at stake, I think, is the finances of seniors and how they have to live. They need to take a long, hard, serious look at the quality of life for seniors because it's crappy.
But Carol insists the challenge facing seniors goes deeper than money.
I'm the invisible, ignored senior. We are not listened to, we are not heard, we are not seen. I'm 77. I have a whole whack of life under my belt. We are tired of not having enough.
Coming up, with just 5 days until the election, our poll analysts are here to break down the latest numbers.
I think that we have seen that the Liberal lead over the Conservatives has shrunk.
More what the polls are showing and what to watch for next. Our polling analysts are here to tell us what the latest numbers reveal. According to the CBC News poll tracker, the Liberals are at 42.7%, the Conservatives 38.3%. So here's how that would translate into potential seats. If the election were held today, Liberals would be poised to elect 192 MPs, Conservatives 122. It takes 172 seats to win a majority. We have to stress, of course, these are just an aggregate of how the polls look today. Anything can happen on Election Day. Eric Grenier is the man behind the CBC News poll tracker, and the RIP, Philippe Fournier, is the editor-in-chief of 338 Canada. So, gentlemen, really good to see you. It is so not over, but, you know, tick-tick, it's getting down to the wire. Eric, the general thing you hear in the atmosphere is people saying, oh, the polls are tightening. But are they really? And if so, what does that mean?
But they are tightening a little bit. And I think people, when we had a campaign where we haven't seen a lot of movement in the polls, are desperate to see something, anything happening in the numbers, something changing from day to day. I think that we have seen that the Liberal lead over the Conservatives has shrunk. It's now somewhere around 4 or 5 points instead of 6 or 7, where it was a couple of weeks ago. But we really haven't seen much of a change in Ontario. The Liberals still leading in British Columbia. They're still ahead in Atlantic Canada. They're still ahead in Quebec. So all the ingredients for them to win the most seats, and still probably a majority, is still there, even if we see that that margin between the two parties nationally has gotten a little bit smaller than it was a week or two ago.
So, Philippe, what is something that you found interesting about the polls over the last 4 weeks?
Well, campaigns that end the way they began in the polls are actually the exception. It's very rare. And now we see, of course, the big movement that happened in public opinion was before the RIT dropped. When we look at the curves since late March, the numbers haven't really moved, as Eric said. And you talked about tightening. Yes, the overall numbers tightened a bit by a point or two, but it did not tighten where the Conservatives needed. When we look at the seat projections on my website and on the CBC tracker, we see that the lines have been flat since late March, early April.
Interesting. Can we talk about some specifics here? Because, you know, in a Canadian election, there's the big picture, but then there are 343 local races. So I'm curious, Eric, what is one riding that you will be paying particular attention to Monday night?
Well, it's like trying to choose your favorite child, I suppose. But if I had to, one of the ridings I'm really interested in is Port Moody Coquitlam in the BC Lower Mainland. This is a riding that has been a close three-way race for actually the last 3 elections. The NDP has won it twice, the Conservatives have won it once over that time, but the Liberals were always in that fight. We've seen a lot of movement in British Columbia, the Liberals up, the Conservatives up, and the NDP way down. So I think this riding will be a little bit of a test case. Will the Liberals make the gains at the NDP's expense that they need to get themselves up into majority territory? Will the Conservatives make the gains they need in suburban areas of the country to have a shot at winning the election? And will the NDP survive this election at all? I think Port Moody Coquitlam will be one of the ridings I'll be watching on election night.
Okay, that's one from British Columbia. Philippe, what will you be watching in particular?
Well, I chose one close to home. So Trois-Rivières, between Quebec City and Montreal, is an interesting case. Trois-Rivières has swung in the past. It's won to the PCs, it won by the Bloc Québécois. The NDP took it in the Orange Wave. The Bloc Québécois won it back. But the federal Liberals have not won the riding of Trois-Rivières since 1980. And right now, the numbers that we have show that the Liberals are competitive in Trois-Rivières. And you even saw Mr. Carney campaign in Trois-Rivières yesterday. So perhaps their internal polling shows that they have a shot. If the Liberals win Trois-Rivières, it could signal a very good night in Quebec and, of course, overall, a good night nationally.
So as someone who has been studying 122 ridings in Ontario, I'm kind of surprised neither one of you spoke about Ontario, but I am curious, Eric, where in that province will you be most interested in?
Well, it's obviously going to be the Greater Toronto Area. This is the region of the country that the Liberals have won in the last 3 elections, and it has delivered their government. But I think why we haven't talked about Ontario is that the Liberal lead there is pretty big, and we're not seeing a lot of indications that the Conservatives are going to make the breakthrough they need. If we do see that some of the GTA, particularly Mississauga, Brampton, Oakville, if those ridings are turning blue in election night, then maybe Pierre Poilievre has a chance to win this. But the numbers suggest that Ontario is trending toward the Liberals, and if that holds, then they're going to win the election.
Philippe, anything we're missing there?
Well, I also look at Atlantic Canada. Last time, the Conservatives won 8 seats there, so this will be the early results that we'll have. If we see the Conservatives are not able to hold their own in Atlantic Canada, it could signal a bad night.
Okay. As always, you guys get so much in such little time. It's impressive, and it helps us all. So thank you both for joining us again. Enjoy election night.
Thanks very much.
Thank you, Adrienne.
Cheers. Up next, a Nova Scotia man proves it is never too late to step outside your comfort zone.
But I guess I should find something else.
Special way, he is marking his 90th birthday in our moment. You're looking at Max Gallant. He's a musician from Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, about to mark some major milestones. That's because he's about to turn 90 years old. He is also about to release his very first album, thanks to a little help from his friends. How it all came together makes our moment.
When he gives his one possession. My name is Max Gallant. I'm just about ready to turn 90. I started playing probably when I was about 11 or 12 years old. If it wasn't for Kirk, I would have never ever even known that I could sing a little bit. But he brought all that out. And Mama too.
My name is Kirk Bernard. I'm from Nail Pond, PEI. I'm a musician, and I met Max through music. He said, my hands are bothering me. He said, I don't think I can play. I said, okay, well, can you sing? And he said, no, I can't sing. And I said, well, why don't we give it a try?
I sang a song, and he said, that don't sound too bad. He said, let's make a CD. Please no green bananas.
It was a labor of love.
Never thought I'd ever do anything like this. Better late than never.
Not bad, old boy. Yes, sir.
Hey, so May 14th is the big day for the birthday and the album release party, and the No Green Bananas, that's a reference to an old George Burns joke. He was a comedian who was performing into his 90s, and one of his bits was, you know, at this age, I don't even buy green bananas. So thank you for being with us. You can watch anywhere, anytime on the free CBC News app and subscribe to the Nationals YouTube channel. I'm Adrienne Arsenault. Take care.